right. All right. So
Collecting old games.
the
Is it worth it? Should you do it?
no, that's not the topic. The topic is collecting old games.
What's the point?
What is the point? What is the point of that's a good question. What is the point of collecting old games?
We can
I mean,
emulate them now.
you can emulate them now. Uh,
Is there still a point to collecting them with emulation?
yeah, I think that there is. I think that you get a better quality when you play the original cartridge or original game than the emulation. I mean, it's really good. Emulation is really good, but there's some games that just struggle with it, and you have a lot of slowdown, or the graphics aren't quite right. There's a quite a bit of lag on some of these games, and now that I've gotten into the emulation scene a little bit, I notice it more. So for instance, I'm playing Ninja Gaiden, and I'm playing it on the emulator, and I'm going through, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And I play it on NES. I'm like, whoa, this is way more responsive, and it looks better. I mean, it just has that look. Obviously the emulator scales it up and everything, but when you scale up an NES game, it it doesn't look good. So there are drawbacks of emulation, especially if you want to play a game like Ninja Gaiden. I mean, you gotta mash the button, you gotta have precise jumps, you have to lots of things that you have to do that I don't think emulation can do. So that's
If you're playing Ninja Gaiden, whether it's Nintendo or emulation, don't you only need the ability to throw your controller?
it is a tough game. Yeah. Either way, yeah, you can do that on emulation or the original console. It's a pretty tough game, and in fact, uh, it's easier when you play on NES because of the lag. So you would be more prone to throwing your controller if you're emulating. Plus, usually when you're emulating, you're using a more expensive controller than a cheap little NES controller. So it's bad all around, I guess.
So why do you collect old games? You seem to have a small stockpile behind you in case there's an apocalypse.
Yeah. If there's an apocalypse and I just want to stare at the games to remind me of the good days. The reason I collect is there's a lot of obviously nostalgia behind it. A lot of these games I had when I was a kid. But the other reason is, I mean, I like going back and playing them. And I was kind of a purist until about like 2 months ago when I decided to make an emulator for the first time. Well, I messed around with it like 10 years ago. But about a couple months ago, I really said, all right, let me sit down and make one. And I think it's great. I absolutely think it's great. But there's something about having the game physically. Like, I'm to the point where my NES collection, I have a lot of the good games. There's quite a few more that I want. I'm not all into I'm going to collect 100% of the NES games because I think that's ridiculous. I think that's impossible. I mean, it's too hard to do that anymore. I can't just go to the flea market, or I can't go to the video game store and buy an old game. I can't. I'll have to get on eBay and spend $500 for a copy of whatever. Lil Samson.
I completely agree. Within reason, it is much better to have a physical copy. It's not exactly video games, but in my own life, just to relate it, manga, for example, you can read manga for free online.
Yeah,
it's not an issue. But I still, when I really love a series, I would much rather have the actual book, flip through the pages, be able to take my time with it. Go back to it, not have to look it up on a computer and look at the screen and load pages or whatever the case may be. There is something, like you said, pure about owning something, actually owning the physical part of it.
Right. Even on current gen consoles, I'll buy physical before I buy anything digital. So, and it's that same reason. It's a lot of people have that trust of for instance, is Sony going to be around in 5 years in their online system and I can't re-download it? right?
Right.
But if I have that physical copy, all I need is the PlayStation, and I'm going to be able to play it.
You got your security blanket.
Right. Some people feel that way, and I don't really care about that too much. I'm more of a kind of person that I just want to have it physically. So that's why, every time a game comes out that I want, I'll order it on Amazon, which you'll get 20% off if you buy it within the first 2 weeks it comes out. So there's a pitch for Amazon, which is, I think, an amazing deal.
I think Amazon has to follow us now, right? Is that the rule?
Yeah, I think so. So I'll have my people call their people. I don't know how that works, but
we don't even have people. It's just us.
That's what I was talking about. I was gonna say we would call them, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm just gonna go down to the distribution center and say, "Watch this podcast."
Yeah. Fold your arms and just sit there with a smug look on your. Well, you do that.
Stare at them until it gets to the part where we plug them, and then be like, "Yeah, what's up?" Better recognize.
I'm pretty sure their distribution center is all robots. So I don't think. Well,
I think they treat their distribution center like it's run by all robots.
Well, I don't. They don't make many mistakes. I'll tell you that. Pretty happy with Amazon for the most part. But this podcast is not about Amazon. It's about collecting old games, which is horrible to do on Amazon. But all in all, I'd rather have a physical copy than an emulation copy, and it's getting harder and harder because it's getting
harder and harder.
Even non-rare games are shooting up in price. For what reason, I don't know. I mean, a good example is Earthbound. Earthbound is an SNES game, very expensive, but it's not it's not rare. You can find tons and tons of copies on eBay for $200. I don't know why it has to be $200. It's not that rare of a game. But then there's some like really rare games that come out, and like Little Samson, right? That's a rare game. They didn't make very many. It was at the end of the NES life cycle, and that makes sense that it'd be expensive. Or some of those other obscure types of games there's just a few out there. That makes sense to me.
Well, there's still the mindset, even if something is, what's the word I'm looking for? Not rare, if it's common. Diamonds are that way, right? I mean, there are tons and tons and tons of diamonds. I mean, they continue to pull them out of diamond mines. They're not any kind of rare anymore, but yet people still treat them like they're rare and charge like they are.
Right, they put a price on it, and that's what that. Yeah, I get it, and at first I thought that was stupid what you're saying, but as you said it makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like how some of these games are. It's just like these are the diamonds of the system. I mean,
right.
Cult classics are usually really expensive, and sometimes they're not good games, but that there's a small market of people that really like the game, and next thing you know, when you just want to try it out or look for it, it's like, what is that game so expensive for?
Yeah, I mean, you get the vultures taking advantage of the prey.
Yeah.
Hey, you want this piece of meat? Yeah, sure. You might be able to get it anywhere, but or can you?
Right. Well,
I don't think that made any sense.
It didn't. And now you're distracting the topic a little bit, but that's all right. But the point is that it's just like, even though they're more common games, they put this price tag on it that now, like, if I have a copy of Earthbound, and if I'm going to sell it, I'm obviously going to sell it for $200. I'm not going to sell it for $50 or $60. I'm going to have to sell it for $200 because
you're not a charity.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just weird how the market goes with video games. But I guess that's how anything you collect really goes.
$60 for a 20-year-old game. That's just crazy. Might as well just give it away.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. No. Don't be sad. Don't cry. All right, but yeah, so it's harder and harder to collect video games, not because they're super rare. It's because of jerk offs that mark up games because they think. I mean, and this will be my last point to it. But sometimes I'll be just searching eBay, and I rarely buy off eBay unless there's something that I need right away. But when I get on eBay and I see a game that I know is you can buy it $15 and they have it $60 because they're trying to look for somebody that and they put rare behind it. They're trying to trick somebody, and that makes me so mad because then somebody's going to buy that for $60 because there's I won't call them idiots. I'll call them uninformed people.
Uninformed people
that'll just buy it because there's a game they had when they were a child, and then all of a sudden there's a trend start. Oh, that one sold for $60. I'm gonna sell mine for $60. And next thing you know, you're selling these, stupid golf games on NES for $60, and it's very, very disheartening collecting games anymore. So
I want to see that happen with Duck Hunt. I want to see Duck Hunt just shoot up in price.